Hi, everybody, and welcome to Exegetically Speaking, a podcast of the friends and faculty of Wheaton College, Wheaton, Illinois, and the Lanier Theological Library in Houston, Texas. My name is David Capes, and I am the Senior Research Fellow at the Lanier Library. And our purpose in these podcasts is very simple. We want to promote the study of biblical languages, Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic, so that we can read the Bible more faithfully, study it more fully, and not just read it and study it, but also to live it. Joining me today is Dr. Bill Mounce, who happens to be at the Lanier Theological Library with his wife, Robin. He's the president of biblicaltraining.org. Bill, good to see you.
It's good to be here. Thanks.
Now, what's your first impressions of the Lanier Library and Mark Lanier, because you had a chance to meet him today?
Well, one is that he's a lot younger looking than I thought he was going to be.
Yep.
But no, it's funny. I've heard about this library for many years, and it's fun to see the person who had the vision and the wherewithal to start it. And the idea of creating a study center and some of the plans for expansion you all have, I think is really good. We need study centers. We have the Tyndale House in Cambridge, but really nothing on this side of the Atlantic. So it's good to see you going this direction.
And we're in the days of COVID, which means that travel is restricted, and who knows when that's going to lift exactly.
Yeah.
And so having a center like this in the U.S., in the center part of the U.S. as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Houston's pretty easy to get to from a lot of different directions.
Yeah, it is.
So how did you start reading Greek? What was the...
You know, I was a photojournalism major in college, and I was pretty sure I wasn't going to stay in it, but I loved it and just kind of taking as many general ed classes as I could. And I took my first New Testament survey class under Julia Scott, who ended up at Wheaton after Western Kentucky.
I remember. Yeah, I remember the name.
And a week and a half into the class, I changed my major knowing I was talking about learning multiple languages and 2 more degrees and all those things you have to do. So I thought for about a half an hour and changed my major. And Greek was one of the first classes I started taking after I changed my major.
Yeah. Now, because we have Hebrew specialists in the room as well. You studied Hebrew, I'm sure, but are you gravitated to
I
the
think
Greek side?
Everyone has kind of tendencies towards different languages. Hebrew was a love-hate relationship for me. There's a rhythm in languages, and I could figure out what the Greek rhythm was. I could never figure out the Hebrew rhythm. It just stayed rote memory for me, and I did it and got to the point where I could work in it.
Yeah.
In 1 year, my doctoral dissertation was all in Hebrew, so I learned it, but it was hard for me. And that was partly why I wrote the grammar I did. In Greek, there's got to be a way to make it easier.
Yeah, and you are Mr. Greek in a way to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, because I know I've taught Greek for a number of years and have used your grammars and other resources, some of the video resources that you've done as well. So we really appreciate all the great work that you've done and made that available. You have a website called biblicaltraining.org now, and tell us a little bit, what's the idea, what's the mission behind it?
Well, it started 20 years ago because there wasn't a way to really train church leaders, and it really concerned me. And as I got into the project, we realized that one of the things that we could do is really get the very best professors in the English-speaking world. They were very happy to donate their classes, so I wanted a class on Psalms, so I went to Bruce Walke. I wanted a class on Romans, so I went to Doug Moo, again at Wheaton.
Yeah.
And so we've been able to amass, we're at 2,100 hours of lectures, 132 classes and seminars, both lay level, college level, and mostly at seminary level. So the goal is to move high-quality Christian education back into the church. I think it was 15 years ago I saw the statistic, the average seminarian graduates $70,000 in debt.
Wow.
And I said, there's got to be a way to get a quality education without that kind of debt load.
Yeah.
And so we are moving the education back into the church and encouraging people to study together, to learn together. So that's what we're doing.
Any idea how far-reaching this is? I mean, is this going beyond the borders of the U.S. of A. and other places as well around the world?
Yeah, we have users in every known country in the world. And according to Google Analytics, some countries that the world doesn't know exist yet. I mean, we get interesting. I'm in this country, and I go, well, that doesn't show up on a map anywhere. But
yeah.
So no, every country in the world uses it. We're over 1 million unique users now a year. So 1 million different people are accessing the site. Sites mostly in English. We have some other in Hindi and Swahili and some other languages, but English is really the lingua franca. The second largest block of English speakers in the world is India. And so there kind of needs to be a real reason to put the money into translation work, and other people are doing that. So we've really focused on English.
Yeah. Now, in the project, you sort of oversee everything, I'm sure, and you're the idea man behind it as well. Do you get to do a lot of the teaching that you want to do?
I try not to do too much because I don't want it to be a Bill Mounce site. I want it to be a generic biblical training, broadly evangelical site. Having said that, I think there's about 6 or 7 of my classes on the site, but I really wanted to make sure it didn't look like I was pushing myself. And so in fact, nobody knew it was me for a long time until one of my coworkers said, "Bill, you're going to have to tell people it's you, otherwise we can't raise any money. It's a nonprofit. The classes are all free. People don't want to give money if they don't know where it's going. You're going to have to come out of the shadows."
So how far can a person, do they start at sort of introductory Greek, and how far can they go?
In terms of Greek, my summary lectures are on it. Because of my relationship with Zonovan and the work I've done with them, I can't release any other lectures on it. But the basic summary lectures are there. And we have Hebrew ready to go up. I just need the time to get them up.
Yeah. And how far can a person go in studying languages?
Well, you can go to the day you die.
Right.
You mean
right.
on biblical training?
Yeah, on biblicaltraining.org.
You know, if you take the seminary classes, if you just know English, you'll do okay. But, you know, Doug Moo's going to talk about the Greek in his Romans class. Guthrie talks a lot about Greek in his Hebrews class.
Yeah.
And so, you know, what we tell students a lot is that, you know, how do I keep my Greek up? Well, you use it. And you use it by reading good commentaries that require you to know it. And so our teachers are all, I mean, they're the top in the world. I mean, you're going to learn Hebrew when you're doing Bruce Walke's class on Psalms or Proverbs. I mean, it's just, that's how Bruce thinks. So that's what you do. But in terms of the actual study, there's just the introductory stuff on the site.
Okay. Well, Bill, best of luck with it. We're glad that you're here to be a part of it, and we'll have other conversations in the future at other podcasts as well.
Thanks.
Thanks as well to Silvio Vasquez, Rebecca Larson, and Krista Sanchez for helping us edit and produce the podcast. Thanks to Phil Keggy for our music. If you want to study biblical languages, you ought to consider Wheaton College, whether you're a graduate or an undergraduate student. So go to the website, www.wheaton.edu. Look for modern and classical languages. Get started today. If you have questions or comments about this podcast, if you'd like just to be in touch, we'd love to hear from you. Contact us at exegetically.speaking@wheaton.edu. Thanks for listening.